Druumm, diverse, revolutionary, Unitarian, Universalist, multicultural ministries, was built on the shoulders of BIPOC leaders in our faith, many of whom have left because Unitarian Universalism did not always embrace diversity and hold spaces for people of color to thrive. Druumm's roots in Unitarian Universalism are grounded in Black organizing for racial and social justice in the 50s and 60s, urban ministries in the 70s and 80s, immigrant and refugee advocacy in the 80s, LGBTQIA advocacy in the 80s, and the anti-racism movement that continues to this day.
In 1997, a group of religious professionals set out to create Druumm as a body of advocacy work towards uplifting, confirming, and nurturing each other as colleagues and the ministries to which they dedicated their lives. 2 years later, Druumm widened our circle to include membership of all BIPOC folks who identified as UU. Today, Druumm serves as a space for BIPOC UUs to share our stories, cultivate our devotional projects, and gather in faith and healing across all ages and diverse multicultural backgrounds. Druumm is led by an elected steering committee of members who oversee programs, a part-time consulting minister who leads the organizing project, and a part-time administrator on loan from the UUA.
Druumm's partnership with A.R.E, or Allies for Racial Equality, has been paramount for the work of anti-racism and anti-oppression. We know as BIPOC UUs that congregational life does not always reflect the wholeness of our multicultural worldviews or cultural practices. More often than not, it has been the voices of BIPOC UUs which have been neglected or silenced within our shared faith tradition. With this being known, we have committed ourselves and each other to heavy work which will require many hands, and a shifting of burdenful deference, which our white folks will need to be prepared to carry with, and at times, for us. A.R.E has been a great partner in their willingness to call in their white UU siblings who choose to interrupt our events and who try to claim our space as their space, as if we are conspiring to do something that would harm them. We are claiming our space for the health and well-being of all UUs, but specifically our BIPOC UUs.
We need to share this work of dismantling the systems upheld by white supremacy together as much as we need to share our Unitarian Universalist values. And where do our values take the deepest root but in our covenant together? Our 8 Unitarian Universalist principles, that which epitomizes the spirit of community and home we have promised one another. Taking from the words of former president of Star King School for the Ministry, Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker, this is a covenant which we have inherited. I often consider how I make contact with both living and non-living things in my faith work and spiritual development. The work of living into covenant is one of those meaningful ways in which I have committed myself as a Unitarian Universalist towards this work. As a Black and Indigenous person in this faith, finding Druumm has meant finding the contact my spirit desires within a community of common background. I have made contact, reached out, felt joy, lost, gained, rejoiced, and been held by those making similar contact in this movement towards a more just and equitable Unitarian Universalism. I am new to UUism, only having self-identified since November of 2017 and becoming a member of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta in 2019. Since finding my new faith home, I have enthusiastically committed myself to building lasting foundations here in this faith for people who look and live like me, because I love myself. Becoming a member of Druumm has been a turning point in my spiritual journey. As I have been deeply moved by coming into my faith, I have also been deeply harmed by discovering that white supremacy really is systemic and really is everywhere. I am part of this faith, your faith, our spiritual home we have committed to building together in covenant. As we move into this work to untangle oppressive and unjust violence from our interdependent web of existence, let us also work to make contact with the voices of those who have been silenced. Let us remember the voices which built Druumm, the ancestors of our covenantal faith. We are in need of a great spiritual healing.
I've been committed to Druumm for a few years now, since 2017, serving as a co-outreach coordinator. Druumm's work is so important to me because anti-oppression is still new territory, and raising awareness of Druumm's existence, our mission, and our values will help encourage others to learn more. It is hard work. Druumm's work is vital for the success to advocate for our fellow BIPOC folks in our UU community. We are BIPOC, we are proud, and we are strong. Hashtag BIPOC strong.
I was raised in a Taiwanese Buddhist household, discovered evangelical Christianity in high school, and then found agnosticism when my personal values didn't align with those of my pastor. When I finally found Unitarian Universalism in graduate school, I was welcomed into a loving and also predominantly white congregation. And as much as I loved my new congregation, it was sometimes hard feeling like I had to be the spokesperson for the Asian American view. Which there is not one. Druumm for me is a place where I can speak with others about our sometimes shared, sometimes divergent experiences as UUs, people of color, and UUs who are people of color without it feeling like work. It's a place for pastoral care, celebration, commiseration, and restoration so that I can continue to engage in my congregation feeling recharged and renewed. When white UUs ask me, what can I do? How can I help? I regularly point them to Allies for Racial Equity because it can be so important to have access to a community of white siblings that are all actively working to dismantle white body supremacy and white supremacist mindsets within their lives and our congregations.
James Baldwin, author and ancestor, says, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. And it is time that we face some things so that we can make change." I found out about Druumm about 6 years ago. I had been existing in the UU world, but did not know all of the groups that existed to support folks that looked like me. It was 2015, and I needed to find my community because too many people that looked like me were being murdered. And I, like many of them, could no longer breathe. My breath was taken away because where I live, there are few to none UU congregations, and the one congregation I participated in had become a place that was not welcoming. Yet I still stuck around for 2 more years. I could not breathe because witnessing folks that look like me losing their lives made me feel like my life could soon be gone. I could not breathe or did not feel like I could come up for air because I was working in an industry that proclaimed it was customer centered, and instead it was driven by numbers and corporate need for growth. But I can breathe now. I can be my whole self in this Druumm community. And we make this choice to continue this work where we widen the circle and create spaces for more folks to be welcomed in. So when we think about this statement on conscious, we have to think about the ways in which we invite folks in to show up as their whole selves. We need to break the barriers and stigma around income. We need to pull back and pull out of businesses and corporations that seek to do harm in communities of color. We need to rely on the voices of the youth, the disabled, and our elders. We need to listen to the voices of the folks in our queer communities. And we need to tell the truth. tell the truth about the oppressions we have caused, and we have to make amends for that and then move on. My last thought is that we need to continue to be a prophetic faith that leads in social justice and helps to set a precedent for how the rest of the world will move going forward. So, may we be the people that create a better world, a more sustainable world. Blessed be y'all.